there and here. This is down for everybody let's do it.
You know, I think you may have to meet me. I'm not exactly sure how to do that on my phone. I don't want to create background noise. I sent in an email comment, so I think I can probably get by with just listening.
Okie doke, that sounds good. We're going to start the meeting and I'll have you on mute.
All right, folks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, good morning, everybody. We have our newest member on the committee, and Ms. Jackson. I'm really happy to have you here. And since you weren't here, there was somebody who said some wonderful things about you. But we'd like to hear from you. Let everybody know a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. My name is Winchika Jackson.
Sure, Michael.
Good morning. My name is Winchika Jackson. I have been a long-term resident of Okaloosa County. My parents moved here with me back in 1982, and when my dad was stationed at Pearlbird. And I have considered Okaloosa County my home. I live in Crestview currently, grew up in Fort Walton, went to various, Broome or Fort Walton, and just enjoyed all that Okaloosa has afforded me as a long-standing resident. And served on the Okaloosa County Commission on the Status of Women, where I was also the president of that organization. I am so excited to be here, to be able to give back to my community again. I believe in our civic duty and ability to serve, and I look forward to this opportunity to be with you all and serve our wonderful community.
Very well put. All right. Getting down to our agenda, the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All right. Any second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Public forum. I believe you have something in there.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to let everyone know that we have quite a few comment cards and comments that have been sent to us in relation to the long-range transportation plan, which today we will hear that draft presentation plan. It will come back to you in December for final approval. I just want to make a note, and this will be relayed to you again later in the agenda, but we have some comments that were part of the process throughout the year and a half so process. And we have some comments that came directly wanting to be read at the meeting or wanted to be addressed at the TPO meeting today. So just kind of wanted to frame that for you. We do have quite an extensive amount of information, and it's good information.
Okay. Do we have anyone who's speaking from the public? There's no one here to.
I have a quick, are we gonna hear those comments later? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if there was anybody that was I see this young lady, so I didn't know. Okay. All right, I guess at this point, we'll go with the FDOT update.
Good morning. FDOT wants to update you on 2 meetings that are upcoming. The first is the hybrid public meeting, and all the meetings are hybrid now. There's a virtual option and an in-person option at the same meeting, and pre-registration is required, but I'll talk about that a little bit for the hybrid and the in-person. There's a public meeting on intersection improvements on US 331. The meeting will be Thursday, November 4th at the Funiac Springs Community Center. It'll be 5:30 to 6:30. Registers for the virtual meeting, which will be a GoToWebinar format, at northwestfloridaroads.com, and it's /virtual meetings. And I can pass out this for anyone that wants to copy that down and get an idea of the photos involved. Pre-registration is required for the virtual meeting and encouraged for in-person, just so they know how many people will be showing up. And the same materials are provided for each format. The intent of the project on 31 is to provide intersection improvements at the 110 Interchange, the Winn-Dixie entrance, and US 90. And just to give you an idea, They're adding traffic signals at the I-10 ramps, replacing the traffic signal at Winn-Dixie entrance and adding a crosswalk across 331, reconstructing US 331 at US 90. With the addition of turn lanes at US 331 and US 90, it'll require closing of a median. Add second westbound left turn lane, bike accommodations, a crosswalk, and extending both left turn lanes. The second meeting is on racetrack. It's about racetrack at Marwalt and the Denton intersection improvements. The in-person meeting will be at Trinity Methodist Church on Tuesday, November 9th from 5:30 to 6:30. Again, pre-registration is requested and required for the virtual option. Maps, drawings, and other information are available for review at the same site, the Northwest Florida roads. The intent of the project is to improve the Marwalt and Denton Boulevard intersections. The Marwalt Drive intersection will add a right turn lane in the westbound direction, eliminate the median opening east of the intersection, and add a directional median opening for westbound traffic to Windrock Plaza. The Denton Boulevard intersection will add right turn lanes in all 4 directions, as well as adjust the left turn lanes to provide better sight distance for motorists turning left from Racetrack Road onto Denton Boulevard. In addition, work on both projects includes signal replacements, minor drainage, and ADA improvements. Bids for construction on both these on the racetrack Marwalt Denton is scheduled to occur winter of next year.
Christy, what's the name of the church for the second meeting?
Trinity Methodist, it's on racetrack.
Can you do the address where we have to respond to RSVP?
Yeah, I can pass it around too.
Okay, thank you.
It's northwestfloridaroads.com, and they say it's / so you can find it on that site, but just to let you know exactly where it is, virtualmeetings.com. So virtual meetings is one word.
Is Northwest spelled out or abbreviated?
It is NWFROADS.com. And then
And we RSVP there if we come in person also?
they're not going to turn anyone away if you don't pre-register and you show up at the site, but they're requesting pre-registration so they have enough materials.
So the same site though, you can RSVP
Right,
for the November, right? Okay,
right.
thank you.
And so virtual, they'll have the same materials available for you. Now the racetrack, the materials are on that site as of Tuesday. And that's where I found all the improvements to bring it to you. And that concludes my presentation, and I will take any questions that you may have about upcoming projects.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, I did. First of all, I was telling you before the meeting, it was great to see the construction starting off for 85 expansion and improvements. Southwest bypass moving up now to the Enzor and Highway 90 part. Any updates on any of those projects primarily in the northern part of the county?
Let me read, this is a construction meeting minutes and the information. It's Metric and ABC Group conducted an indoor, door-to-door, or in-person, door-to-door project work zone to inform the local businesses of the upcoming construction. And they'll have signs, they're gonna have drive up, they'll host drive up public information events. And I'm not sure how that's gonna work. You'll have to, maybe we'll notify you the next meeting if we hear about it. If you hear about it, I'm sure there'll be signs to help grow community awareness of this project and the construction-related impacts for the traveling public.
Okay. All right, one other question I had was, I saw in the paper Okaloosa County Commissioners approved their budget, starting, in the fiscal year for October 1st. And there's dollars that they've allocated on Old Bethel, because that is the northwestern bypass, is the nomenclature for that. And I think in the packet here, there's information that DOT has under the feasible plan. Is that a joint project between the county and Florida DOT? Any more information on that particular segment? Seems like it's moving pretty rapidly.
I can discuss that more in the work program. I'm trying to
Okay.
find it.
Because
Yeah.
if you want to wait till later, that's fine. We can go ahead and do that. All right, Chrissy, what would we
Alex
just?
Chairman, that was the western bypass, right? Not the eastern.
What is
The
it?
eastern, I don't know.
That was in Northwestern? Okay. All right, well, we'll come back to that one later. All right. Again, any questions for Florida DOT?
Yep, I'm pleased to see Tom's Bayou is nearing completion and looks good so far.
Anticipated final acceptance is December 17th of this year. And they've completed most of the northbound bridge and currently working on grinding and grooving the bridge deck. Over the course of the next month, the contractor will construct the remaining traffic railing on the southbound bridge, perform median reconstruction, milling, and resurfacing operations. It's coming along.
Okay, all right, moving on to consent. Anybody have anything on the minutes from last meeting? They were posted in your packet, and I believe they were also posted. Okay.
I was we accept the minutes of our last meeting.
Okay, and a second.
Amy?
All right, and any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we approved minutes from the September meeting. Now we have only one action item, and this is for OW 2115. So who's got that one? Is that you for the action item?
Christie's going to present. This is the FTOT 5-year work program for fiscal years 23 through 27. And it is for both Okaloosa County and then Walton County, and she will present. And the work programs are in your packet. Are we going to be able to project that? No? Okay.
It looked like this on the new format this year.
I think it's one here.
It should be in the, not in the enclosure, in the actual agenda.
Page 99.
Should be in for the last thing.
Okay.
Got it.
Got it?
Page number helps.
Yeah.
99.
So, if you've seen the format in past years, this is a new user-friendly for the public format. And I'll go over some new projects in Okaloosa first, and Walton, then take any questions. Now, the first few pages are intermodal or multimodal projects. And I want to talk about what starts on page 7. There are 2 new resurfacing projects in Okaloosa and 1 DMS project, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The first new project is the preliminary engineering, and I just want to let you know that the new format construction is first on there. You know, a lot of times you see design and preliminary engineering first. They do construction first. So when you look at the program, you'll see that and then go over and see the money involved for that. So this is construction, I said preliminary engineering, but it is construction for $10.5 million. It's resurfacing of 98 from Santa Rosa County line to just west of Josie Road. It includes lighting at Parish Boulevard, that's intersection lighting, and at Florissa Elementary. The second project I want to talk about a little is the Brooks Bridge. What was added to the program was the $50 million for a bonus. And that's all that was added to the program. And then again, this is 5 years until 2027. Also, on page 7, the Around the Mound project, the PD&E was added in 2023 with Walton Beach, the city contributing $1 million. And the department contributing $470,000.
That's,
Page 7
that's
is
the SR 30.
1, 2, 3, fourth project down.
I can't find the Brooks Bridge money.
And stuff, so I think that's
Yeah.
what's.
Okay. Turn to the next page, page 8. It is the second project up. Brooks Bridge, the design build project, just to let in April, and all that was added into the program was the $50 million bonus. And that was added in 2027.
I don't see 50 million.
It says 5 million, doesn't it?
It's
But
fine.
the note says 50 million.
There's
It
a
does
big
say,
difference.
well, federal contract incentives.
This, or this one, yeah, okay, this is fine.
Did they split it into 2?
Two,
Yeah.
2.5, 2.5.
Interesting.
Twice.
The note I have
On the
says
site.
50 million, so maybe it's only 5 million, but it's supposed to be.
Could be typo.
Maybe it's a typo.
Could be typo, they were getting happy with their zero.
You get past so many zeros, you gotta
And
get right.
they lost count.
Sorry about that. I didn't even find out if that is a typo.
Contract, so the
$5 million wouldn't be much of a incentive to get one, so it.
Well, the total project is 10,400,000, so, I mean, you're talking 50% of the project you're gonna get as a bonus potentially, I don't know, I'd be happy.
Well, but that's not construction.
Right.
That would be your design.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the project. So it's supposed to be 50, but I'll find out about that. Sorry about that. Now back to page 7, the I-10 Interchange project just west of Crestview.
Mm-hmm.
You may see the repayment there of $28 million. That was the state took out a infrastructure bank loan for the cost of the intersection, and so that's adding money to pay back the state on that construction. And so the interchange project is going along as far as construction, but that's paying the state back. So when you see that repayment, that's what that means.
And that's gonna start in 23? Okay.
Money was added in the 5th year. I'm on page 8, the 5th year for ITS. Normally in the work program, it shows the last year of the program and adding additional money. So that's what that means. It's just that it was added in the 5th year. Resurfacing of Danny Warfel Way from 98 to the Midday Bridge. Also the DMS project. DMS signs on 98 west of the Kelly Plantation and around east of Destin Commons entrance. And again, that will be signs like an accident coming or construction or something, just letting the traveling public know what's going on US 98. And I talked a little bit about Brooks Bridge. Now on page 9. There's a resurfacing on 10 from east of the Shoal River Bridge to west of 85. And that's on the intersection. Interstate.
It's 285 on here.
Well, it's, I-10 from east of the bridge
Mm-hmm.
to west of State Road 85. It's just the resurfacing of that section.
No, I got it, but I'm just saying on here it says State Road 285. If maybe I'm looking at the wrong one.
Okay, the first one. State Road A-110 from east of
Mhm.
Shell River Road to west of State Road 285.
Yeah, that's the one there. Is that the one you were talking about, or, okay,
Yes, sir.
all right.
There are some lab projects or TA projects on the bottom, the South Avenue, Pocahontas, the sidewalk, Eklund Parkway, James Lee Road, the TAP project, it's a lab with Okaloosa County, and that is for construction in 2025. And also the last project on page 9, Woodham Avenue, the sidewalk from on Woodham Avenue from South Avenue to Newcastle Drive. That's construction funded in 2025. The design was in 22, or will be in 22. Now I'm on page 10. The third project down, the State Road 85 at Irwin Fleet and State Road 889, Lewis Turner, Pelham Street intersections, upgrade signals to mast arms. Just to let you know that that's going on, and that is in 2023. We have another lab project, transportation alternatives. Stillwell Boulevard, it's another sidewalk project from 85 to Monterey Boulevard. And on page 12, another TA project, sidewalk project, lab with Okaloosa County has been added to the program on Lewis Street from Bay Parkway to Mayflower Avenue. And that was added in 2027. I'm not going to Walton County and then take any questions. Now, Walton County got one major project in the program, I mean the 5th year of the signals. And also on page 2, the widening of 98 from 30A to the Bay County line. And that project is likely to be split in the future, but that's design was added in 27. And that's $16 million, $16.5 million for the design of that project. And I'll take any questions that anyone may have.
Christie, I looked for some resurfacing, like from racetrack on Eklund Parkway, going north, by the credit union there, before you get to the bridge, Shalimar Bridge and stuff, you've got like chunks coming out of the roadway. Is there anything for Eglin for resurfacing? Kind
I don't see anything in this program. I know that they evaluate any roadway for resurfacing and add that to the program, and then that's the first thing that's done in the program, and then they try to cover any capacity projects. But I'll make a note of that.
I just noticed it this morning. It's kind of like around the Shoal River Bridge, those pieces that are out of the roadway.
That's
Thank you.
resurfacing of which,
Racetrack or
Eglin,
Eglin?
Eglin going north. Right, kind of the credit union, before the bridge, for the Shalimar Bridge.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. I found that whole.
thank you. And I'll have to look, that's not in the work program, but that could be a current project, I don't know, I'll just look into that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, would this be the time to talk about the Old Bethel? Or, I didn't know if you had any, seems like there's county and state, interests in that road, and I didn't know if you had any updates or clarification on what's taking place. I don't see it on this list.
It's
Yeah. It was in the packet, and it's in the feasible, but I see the work that's coming up, and then also I know the county has budgeted money that's in this current year, fiscal year. So I didn't know if there was any updates from the state, if there's involvement in that widening of Old Bethel Estates from Highway 90 up to 85. Okay.
Do you need a motion accepting these?
Yes,
Yep.
please.
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept resolution OW 21-15 for the FDOT fiscal years 2023-2027.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second it. This is Yvonne Earl.
All right, any just further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that was the only action item that we had. Now we have some presentations, and Mary Beth, I'll turn it to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The next presentations pretty much have to do with our long-range transportation plan. The first presentation is going to come from Walton County, the Walton County Mobility Plan, and Ms. Kristen Shell will be presenting.
Okay, thank you for being here and for taking your time out of your lives to serve on this committee. That's pretty great. So I am Walton County's Deputy Planning Director. And we've been working on a project for about over 2 years now, honestly, really going on 3. We got hit with the pandemic, so that didn't help. But we developed a long-range transportation plan for Walton County. It's kind of the first one that Walton County's had that's this comprehensive. And it started back with a comprehensive plan update that we began in 2017, really, where we were looking at, alternative transportation funding sources and just different projects that could be included into our comprehensive plan. Really, as you may or may not know, the statutes require us to have a long-range transportation plan in our comprehensive plan. So moving forward, we did a lot of public involvement. We had many meetings. We had the Seaside Institute's involvement, which was really cool. We actually brought some autonomous transit vehicles to Seaside as part of a symposium that we had, that was really looking at innovative transportation solutions for the 30A corridor. So it's been a long road. It's been interesting. We've gone through a lot of iterations, but finally, on September 14th, the county commission voted to accept and approve the long-range transportation plan. And our goal at this point is to get it, the projects that are in there included into the TPO's long-range transportation plan, needs plan, which I guess we'll be talking about later today. With the TCC, which I sit on, as well as the full TPO. So just to give you a little overview about, we don't have a lot of time, so we can't really get into every project, and I know that would be extremely boring for you guys, but we do have some highlights that we kind of want to talk about. You may or may not know that Walton County is part of the Bay Walton Sector Plan. Which is the large St. Joe development on our eastern border, essentially near the Inlet Beach area. It's our border area with Bay County. And that development is really game changing. I just can't express that enough. It is, 170,000 residential units, and it has 27,000 residential units in Walton County. Yes, mind-boggling the scale of this development. If you do like a straight population projection, I mean, that could be around 300,000 people, which is, the size of Pensacola. So that is really just something to think about for us long-term. Of course, it's a 50-year build-out. So it's, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but there is currently one detailed special area plan approved in Walton County, which has 5,800 units in it, 5,800 units. And then there is also another 2 DSAPs that have been submitted on the Bay County side. So the project is moving, and there's quite a bit of entitlement there in terms of development potential. And it's something that we need to plan for in Walton County so that we protect our most valuable asset, which is the 38 corridor. That is an economic driver for the region. It's an economic driver for Walton County. And so we have been really cognizant in terms of that development's impact to Walton County's main engine. So that development features prominently in this plan, and really that you'll see where we're seeking alternative routes and corridors to the US 98 corridor through the southern portion of the county. And part of those alternative routes are in the Bay Walton sector plan, but then we connect those on over into the Miramar area in this transportation plan. So that's just sort of planning ahead, getting ahead of that development to make sure that we have a way for people to get around in South County. The other thing kind of related to that development is we're looking at secondary north-south routes. So currently right now, Walton County only has one north-south route, which is the 331 corridor, which goes through Freeport. I'm sure many of you have been on that road. So that is our main tourist conduit, and it's our only north-south connector in the county. So there is another route that takes the West Bay Parkway over to 79 in Bay County that is currently prioritized in our mobility plan. But we did look at extending 81, which is another north-south road all the way down to 98, just to give us a secondary hurricane evacuation route, and also, in consideration of future development. But that is not, the 81 connector is not included. So right now it's the West Bay Parkway. So we did include some transit routes and hubs for South Walton, understanding that the 38 corridor cannot be widened. That would be devastating to the, to add more vehicle lanes to the sense of place that is there with our unique communities, Seaside, Rosemary, Alice. So we had looked at doing a sort of a mobility lane on the 38 corridor, but that idea honestly did not get much traction. So I think right now where we are is just a complete street for 38 and a transit route system with hubs that hopefully will sort of allow our day trippers and visitors. Walton County has over 4 million seasonal visitors to South Walton County. So I think we are the highest generator of seasonal traffic in the region. But so the idea being that if we can get some of those folks to sort of park and use other modes on the corridor in the future as we continue to grow. Most of the projects included in the plan are complete streets projects. That was something that Walton County has been really proactive at over the years. Honestly, we've been proactive at trail building, at adding bike and ped facilities where we can. The county already had a trails master plan that fed into this. So that really is kind of in our DNA, I think, in looking at areas for connection and walkability, and making those alternate modes successful. The other priority is the State Road 331 intersection. So there's numerous projects, several projects in our long-range plan that sort of relieve the pressure of that intersection, even though there is a widening project in the work program that Christy was mentioning. We've got some extensions and alignments and different things included in the mobility plan, which would help that intersection. And the county commission has expressed interest in that being a priority. And finally, we really attempted to take a one Walton approach with this transportation plan, where we included our cities. The county commission actually met jointly with all three cities, all three city councils, through the planning process, and that was very productive. And the county commission took the approach that we really want to work with our cities, and the economic development potential that the cities have, and sort of what they want to see. So there's a lot of consideration in the plan for Defuniak Springs. They have a Main Street program. They've got a vision there that involves some road changes, as well as the city of Paxton, which does not favor 331 widening. So there's quite a bit of kind of working together that's included in here. It didn't always go perfectly, and it's probably not perfect, but it is definitely what we wanted to see happen from the county's perspective, for sure. Okay. This is kind of what the mobility plan looks like. I know this isn't too easy to see, but this is the Defuniak, North Walton area. And I'm not going to try to go through these projects. We'll just, hopefully they're getting fed into the needs plan, and we're getting there, see how we come out in the scenarios. Just quickly on the north south route discussion. Again, we prioritize the West Bay Parkway connection from Watersound Parkway to State Road 79. We looked at 81 from I-10 to 98. There's lots of environmental issues there, extreme environmental issues that I'm not, going to say impossible, but would be really hard to overcome. And also, working with the city of Paxton again, they really don't favor 331 widening through the core of Paxton. So we did not include that. And Paxton obviously is outside of the TPO boundary, so that isn't really something for you guys to worry about. And we did prioritize State Road 83 as another connection. So State Road 83 connects down to 20. The 20 East corridor is the next growth area for Walton County. The city of Freeport has a sewer expansion project going on, and a developer has recently committed to extend the linear infrastructure down State Road 20. So we know what that means for that area, and that's been our growth area anyway. Freeport, I think, has it's like 1,500 units permitted, or it could be more than that. I hope they'll be here later, but they have a huge growth happening. And then we have the Defuniak alternative routes in order to get that traffic sort of around Defuniak. The tourist traffic coming through the cities is sometimes problematic. Okay. This is the Freeport area. Again, you can see some of those Highway 331 connect alternatives that kind of relieve that intersection. Yeah, so the main one there is the Marquee Way extension, which is from Shipyard to Blue Ridge. So that one has been prioritized by both the city and the county commissions. Okay. So in South Walton and Miramar, again, general recognition that 38 can't be widened, and parking will be limited just because of the land constraints. We may have some opportunities for additional parking. The TDC has been active in purchasing properties that will be used for transit connection. Yeah, so this is what the, this I believe is the transit hub. You know, we didn't identify specific parcels, but the big blue dot in the center there is the county-owned property at Grayton Beach. We've been really successful with a shuttle that's been going from that property down into Grayton Beach. I think we had over 8,000 riders during our brief experiment with it. So we know that some of those constrained environments where you can't park, the transit connections are working, and we want to continue that. So these hubs are actually based on streetlight data, which has been really cool for us to get into, which is cell phone data where we can see where people are moving on the corridor and how they're traveling. We know that people don't like go from one end of 38 to the other. They more kind of dip in and go to different locations from the connecting roads. And so we've used that data to help us develop these sort of hub and spoke transit systems. And the TDC currently is operating one and moving down from Grayton and down to Seagrove through Seaside. Everybody goes to Seaside that comes to Walton County. Okay. This is the complete streets plan for South Walton, and you'll see some of that. You can see some of that 98 alternative route planning being done here. We do not want to get into a situation where 98 needs to be 8-laned. That's been deemed undesirable by the community. They'd rather see more complete streets and more alternate route development. And obviously, we don't want any more constrained 98 through the county. And this would be the Miramar, Sandestin complete streets. Again, more alternate route planning. The red roads there are a one-way concept to get down to one of our larger beach accesses where we have a parking facility. So there's tons of stuff in here. I think there's over 200 projects, and we look forward to working through the TPO process, hopefully to get some of these accomplished. I know Walton hasn't been the most involved, but I think that's going to change. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Matthew Cox, have you thought about overpass on that intersection between 20 and 331? Because it can get backed up there by
Yes.
the time.
Yes.
Is
We
that
have
something-
definitely talked, I mean, we've talked about it on the county level. I don't know about, DOT currently has a project. So there is a project in the work program that's been developed. But, you know, yes, I mean, probably ultimately that would be a good idea, that intersection. You know, unless we're really successful at alternate route planning and, you know, getting that West Bay Parkway connection through for the new development, it's going to continue to be problematic. Yeah.
I had a question regarding the transportation hubs. Is this just simply a bus stop, or is there some other vision that you have for those transportation hubs?
So that's a great question. So mobility hubs are not a new concept. If you Google that, you'll see that other communities, larger cities in areas are really successful with doing that. So it can mean different things. In our plan, the only place that there is a parking facility is where there's a blue dot. And those are moved off of the 38 corridor intentionally. Our neighborhoods are really opposed to parking facilities in the neighborhoods naturally. And honestly, we don't want people to bring their vehicles down to the corridor. So it makes sense from a planning perspective to try to capture them before they move to the corridor. The green and the yellow, the green are neighborhood hubs, and so those really only are places for people to get on and off the transit facility or transit vehicle. We had originally conceptualized the independent travel lane for transit on 30A. We're so far from that though. I don't know if that's gonna happen. So this would be a vehicle in the travel lane, and you need a place for them to embark and disembark that's not causing greater traffic problems on the corridor. Yeah, so, and then the yellow are a little bit more going on there. So there's some other types of vehicles, there's some ride sharing. We currently have a golf cart on-demand transit circulator operating in the South Walton environment. It's called Get a Goober. So you can basically call up a 6-seater and take your party where you want to go. We looked at some other circulators like Ride Circuit. So there's some cool, innovative micro transit out there that we hope to maybe get at some of these that would be fun for our visitors. I don't personally think a bus is conducive to the 38 environment. I just don't. We were kind of looking for something a little more fun, and small and quiet and all of those things. So in those areas, and we just also issued or about to issue an RFP for micro mobility providers, scooters, that type of thing. So some of these areas may be places for you to either get a bicycle or get an alternative micro transit or alternative vehicle.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Okay,
Well,
thank
we
you.
appreciate your presenting.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, our next presentation, or next couple presentations, will be about the draft Okaloosa-Walton TPO 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan. Jill Nobles is going to do the presentation, and we have our consultants from HDR involved as well. She is going to start with the needs plan, and I think she's going to move right into the cost feasible plan, and then I believe our public involvement team is going to come in. Ray is going to talk about the comments, the survey, and all of that. So Jill, are you on the line?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
All right, great. Like Mary Beth said, I'm going to talk about the draft needs plan and the draft cost feasible plan for the 2045 long range transportation plan, or LRTP update. We are nearing the finish line, so we're at the final part of the long range transportation plan, and that consists of developing 2 lists of projects. We've got the needs plan, that's all the projects that are needed, and then the cost feasible plan. That's all the projects that we can afford through the year 2045. And so the LRTP is updated every 5 years, and it can be amended at any time. But every year, we take that cost feasible plan, and that's what makes up the annual project priorities. So you can see the importance of getting this right during this big 5-year update, so that way the next 5 years, those priorities, we can maintain a consistent priority list to hand over to FDOT, and then they'll develop their 5-year work program like you saw today. All right, next slide. Like I said, we're nearing the end of this plan. We've been working on this since last summer, developing goals and objectives, getting that insight from the committee members and the public as to their overall vision for the plan, developing criteria to help rank the projects, looking at those financial resources, all those funding opportunities that we can see to help us with the cost feasible portion of the plan, as well as updating the congestion management process plan, looking at how the roads are operating currently and how best to keep them maintained and efficient at what they're doing right now. Next slide. So as we get into the projects, I want to just kind of give an overview of what we're looking for. For the needs plan projects, it's not just capacity, adding lanes, or like turn lane improvements, that kind of stuff, but it's also complete streets projects, major intersection improvements. So that would be like the 331 at US 98, that isn't just adding a small turn lane, but would need a major overhaul for that intersection. We're also looking at all modes of transportation, so that includes transit, bicycle, and pedestrian improvements. And these are all for projects needing state or federal funding. They have to go through the TPO process in order to receive that funding. And we do need them to be on facilities, generally speaking, facilities that are on the federal functional classification system or that can directly help that system. Next slide. And for the cost feasible plan projects, like I said, this is a financially constrained list of projects, so we have to fit it in the budget. And then we have two lists in the cost feasible plan. We've got the strategic intermodal system projects, and those are based directly on the FDOT SIS funding plan. And then the projects that you're gonna see on the map for the cost feasible plan, these are the non-SIS projects. So these are off of the major roadway, so you're not gonna see an I-10 project on the map. For the cost feasible plan, even though they're in there, they're just under the SIS. So we're looking at the non-SIS projects for the three scenarios that we're gonna look into. And next slide. Speaking of those scenarios, we've got three scenarios to show you today. These are in no way perfect scenarios. They're just to get a starting out point, to get everyone thinking about what project should rise to the top. So for scenario one, this is our existing priority, so it's based off of our current project priority list for those capacity projects. For scenario two, it's based off of the adopted evaluation criteria for the long-range transportation plan. And then scenario three, it does still include capacity projects, but there's more multimodal type of projects for transit, bicycle, and pedestrian, a regional trail program, and corridor management and complete streets type of projects. And then, so we're getting input right now on all of those three scenarios from our steering committee, but in the end, we're going to develop a final scenario, and it's gonna be kind of a hybrid, the best of those three, and if we missed anything, we'll be combining that into one scenario that's still fiscally constrained, and submitting that for y'all to review at your December TPO meeting. Next slide. I'm gonna hand it over to Ray now to talk about specifically the needs plan outreach results that we conducted last month.
Thank you, Jill. Chair, committee members, pleasure to be with you today. Today, I am going to be talking about our public involvement results that we had for our new faces or anyone who has not met me yet. I am Ray Emery McPhee, one of your public involvement tour guides. On our slide 1, we will see that we first asked participants to rate their highest concern when it came to transportation on a scale of high to low, 1 through 5. They indicated a comparably equal level of serious concern for each variety of improvement. So they do feel that it's equal across the board. Slide 2, we asked the most significant transportation concern that they had for the next 25 years. And you'll see that the biggest one was increased traffic and congestion delays, with the second, lack of accessible mobility choices. You'll also see that the fourth highest was an other field. And I do need to read those comments because they kind of go in line with some of the other choices we had, but these participants felt they needed to say more. Our first said no plan to, quote, move people effectively across both counties or, quote, a transit system to move people around 98. This commenter also indicated Highway 98 is, quote, not safe for bikes, low-speed vehicles, and pedestrians. And they would prefer to see a mobility plan that is not car-centric. Our second, increased population in houses without enough parking. The third, increased population and not enough infrastructure and roadways. The fourth, allowing more people to build while we're losing nature. The fifth, reliability of our public transportation system. The next slide. We asked a couple of questions to figure out how a mobility plan would factor into the needs of our communities. We asked what mode of transportation they used most often, and it's pretty clear to see we are car users. We did ask for 6, we gave them 6 options. You only see 3 present because the other 3 were not selected at all. They had 0 nominations. On our 4th slide here, we looked forward and we gave them an opportunity to kind of dream big, and we asked them, what mode of transportation would you use given the option? And when we did that and we gave them that opportunity, we did see more diverse results. Lastly, we offered a write-in box where participants, on our next slide, I'm so sorry, Katie, thank you so much, that was my bad. We offered a write-in box for participants to suggest adding or suggest removing projects from the needs plan. And that is the handout before you today, because you'll see there are quite a few there, and I would take up time reading those to you. You'll also see 3 emails that were included to Jill or TPO staff. Now, this moves on to the point that Mary Beth and our chair made earlier, that we do have public comments that need to be read into the record. I'm going to start with one because he did submit a comment. And Katie, if you might unmute Mr. Robert Raymond, please, from the go-to. Mr. Raymond, give us 1 second and I'll give you an opportunity to speak. Can you hear me, Mr. Robert?
I can.
Wonderful. Yes, we can. I will give you an opportunity to either read the comment that you submitted to us or say your piece as it stands. You have the floor.
I would just like to make a note that judging from a disabled person's point of view who has very limited knowledge about what you do and the enormity of pretty much most all the projects, it seems to be a disparity. If you look at your needs in that, what is it, equity analysis slide, there seems to be a big gap that would be in the roughly Highway 2331 intersection going up towards the Finiak Springs. And I would like to see a larger emphasis put on making it more equal to the members of the community. That, without getting into details, because quite frankly, I can't comment technically, but it seems to me there's a large hole in the equity distribution within the system. That is my comment.
Thank you very much. Now moving on to the ones that were submitted online through our comment form. The first is from Reynolds Henderson. He would like to reiterate the support for complete streets projects on Highway 90 into Funiak Springs. Our second is with Ashley Smith. No new roads through the forest. I encourage you to reject Needs Plan Project A-28, the Highway 98 to 30A Connector Road. We have a third from Miss Celeste Cobina. Project A-28 Highway 98 to 30A Connector Road should be removed from the needs list. The proposed highway would go through Point Washington State Forest. This conservation land was purchased with Preservation 2000 funds, and its use is restricted to conservation and passive recreation. During the ongoing PD&E study, an agency meeting was held on May of 2019. All state and federal agencies and utility companies in attendance rejected a road through Point Washington State Forest. In August of the same year, a public hearing was held and nearly all in attendance spoke against a road through Point Washington State Forest. Walton County citizens have continued to object to a road fragmenting the conservation land. Remove Project A-28 Highway 98 to 30A connector from the needs list. Our next is from Mark Messerly. No new roads through the forest. I encourage you to reject Needs Project A-28, the Highway 98 to 30A connector road. The next is from Carolyn Zonia. I am writing to object to Needs List Project A-28, Highway 98 to 30A connector road. It's environmentally inappropriate to carve roads through these last remaining forest spaces. Thank you. And the last is from Beverly Otzen. Please reject the Needs Project A-28 proposed connector road between 30A and Highway 98. This road would do extensive and irreparable damage to the forest. It would not improve traffic on 30A, but would bring more traffic to the area. Walton County should address the many options for mitigating traffic on 30A without destroying the valuable ecosystem of the forest, one of this area's major assets. And our last slide that we have here, Katie, it concludes our public findings. It's okay. There we are. I'm sorry, one more. Thank you so much. At this time, I'll take any questions for our committee before us today.
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you all so much.
I appreciate it.
Hey, this is Jill again. I just wanted to, we are gonna look at the map, but I just wanted to give you a heads up of what's coming up. We held our steering committee meeting earlier this month. We have the draft needs plan and cost feasible plan for the TPO to review at this, the meetings today. And then in November, we have our steering committee already scheduled for November 9th. Gonna get more into that cost feasible plan scenarios and that final hybrid scenario. We'll do another round of public outreach specifically for the cost feasible plan. And then in December, we will ask for adoption by the TPO. And now we're gonna hand it over to Matt Weisenfeld with HDR to actually look at the interactive map. He'll have the needs plan as well as the 3 scenarios that we went through.
And Matt, you're good to share your screen.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk a little bit about our needs plan, some of those cost feasible scenarios, and really provide you a tour of what we've done from the interactive map perspective. And I believe at this point, everybody should be able to see the screen that I am sharing with our interactive map. And you're looking at basically the whole breadth of the TPO boundaries. And probably a lot of lines that you can see encompass the whole region, but you need a little bit more specificity to see what's really there. So as part of this tour, my goal is I'm going to go area by area, zoom in on the needs and discuss some of the needs and how they were developed. And then I'll add on top of it the cost feasible scenarios, the 1, which is our priorities, 2, which is the evaluation criteria, and 3 was more of that multimodal scenario. So to start, and this is really just to go clockwise around the area, I wanted to come in here to the Funyak Springs, make sure it looks like it is visible to everybody there in the room. And so you can see a number of projects that have been brought forward by the area, both in our previous documentation as well as meetings with leaders in the Funyak Springs and through the Walton Mobility Plan. And you can see the color coding. We had talked previously that they're capacity projects, projects that predominantly feature ped bike facilities, whether it's the addition of those along an existing road or standalone ped bike facilities. Circles that represent intersection projects where it's specific intersections needing additional capacity or operational improvements. We have complete street and corridor studies, and those are generally ones that are really focused on adding facilities to an existing roadway. And then we have transit projects. So some of the highlights from this area, and to make sure that everybody's oriented, the large line through the middle of my screen is Interstate 10. And the north-south roadways, the predominant ones are the US 331 corridor, which here's to the south, as well as to the north and to the west, and then State Road 83. And now the needs plan is intended to get all of the projects that would be needed or could be really helpful to these to the communities throughout the TPO boundary. And so it includes a number of projects that may be alternatives of one another, or one project may be able to come earlier than another project. And so it does have a little bit of redundancy, and that is by intent. So for example, one of the things that has been articulated by the leaders in the Funyak Springs is this need for realignment, the ability to connect 83, which is this largest kind of north-south roadway through the middle of my screen right now to the south 331. And these represent different alternative potential alignments that could achieve that, as well as intersection improvements there at what's called Project D14, or I think intersection of 331 and US 90. Now, we have all of these projects set on here, but they definitely do work in concert, and they do understand different things about each other, which is among another is that while we talk about a capacity project for realigning 83, we talk about a complete streets project for what might be achieved on US 90 through the heart of Phoenix Springs. So those are just two different ways to look at all the different needs here in the area and how they work together. I'll also call out a prominent blue line that runs right along the CSX tracks, which could be the more trail bike ped facility there next to what could be a long-term train station, and help support the business interests along US 90 for not only getting vehicles to that corridor, but to get bike and pedestrian access. So those are just some of the projects I'll highlight there that reach the needs plan. Zooming out a little bit, it might take a moment to come back out for everyone. There are several projects that are considered that are more of a bypass or additional area regional capacity on there, and to better help connect the community with Interstate 10. Now, I'm going to go ahead and drop the needs plan here so you can see more of a clear map, and I'm going to add the priorities scenario, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit more because currently there aren't priorities, and these are ones that have been previously documented in that area. But when we go into the evaluation criteria, one of the projects that came from the Walton Mobility Plan that made it through here is the South 331, to make that better connection between the core of the community and 10. But it's really in the multimodal scenario that I'll hang in here for a moment to see that there's a number of different projects that were from that needs plan that rise up further when thinking about it from a multimodal standpoint. And I pointed out that trail facility, one of them here at the core, is having that complete streets facility through the heart of the Phoenix Springs that would allow for that community to have the transportation facility they need and address some of the needs that they've identified. So that one is in there. But that's how this process has been put together. And using the map to walk through, I'll continue around the area. You also have in your agenda packet much of this information as it's been provided in more of a static or printed out version. So I'm going to pause for a moment. Jill, if there's anything that you see that you'd like to highlight here, or if there's any need for discussion in the room before I move to the south in the Walton County area.
Corey's going to speak.
Hey, Matt. I'm Corey Wilkinson with HDR Engineering. Matt's our project manager on this project. I just wanted to make sure that you're able to see and interpret everything he's presenting good enough. Feel free to ask me for clarification. Pause this at any time. If you can't quite see something, I can run up here and point. In the worst case, I've got it up on my laptop. We can huddle around over here. So there's a variety of ways we can help you understand the information. If you got any questions, this is interactive and informational. Just jump in if you got any questions.
All right, you're good, Matt.
All right, well, thank you. So continuing south, I'm going to take a little pause around the Freeport area. There's a handful of projects that have been identified in this area, really circling around the US 331 and those 20 corridors. I'll highlight here that we've looking at this in different angles about what might help and what can be prepared for the community. There's one level, it's an intersection improvement. We discussed that that's one of the types to facilitate the interaction of vehicles at that corridor, whether that's from additional turn lanes or other modifications that can be made to an intersection to address capacity and safety needs. But then there's other parts of this which include, say, the widening, the capacity need along State Road 20 from Black Creek to King Road, which includes right through this community. Also on here are roads that might provide more of a way to avoid needing to use the primary intersection for trips that really don't necessarily need to go on either one of the major state roadways. And this one is an example with Marquette Way up on this corner. Zooming out a little bit, I'll go ahead and add some of the other scenarios. From a cost feasible scenario, the one that rises up is that State Road 20. There you go. That State Road 20, the one I called out of the needs plan, and where the dollars would apply to that. So for this interactive tool, we do have this type of information embedded into it so that it's able to see where the projects are for the areas in which they're in, as opposed to looking at a full table. On the evaluation criteria scenario, 331 is projects from that the Walton Mobility Plan as it sits now. We mentioned earlier that there's a whole SIS level of projects, and the SIS level of project is really kind of in advance of these other cost feasible scenarios. But where needs were identified on SIS facilities, needs that may not be part of the current project planning, they are identified here and evaluated as though they were above and beyond the current SIS planning, and this is one example of that. Then from a multimodal, it's about making sure that you also get the, that this has the potential to add other features, as well as the multimodal is not strictly multimodal, but in places where you do have more multimodal activity. So I'll go ahead and continue south here. You can probably see some of the foreshadowing here at the intersection of 331 and 98. And much of what was brought forward in the mobility plan and kind of a different type of look at the graphics. These graphics are designed to be to bring together all the projects throughout the region and show it from this kind of interactive data level. But you can see that a number of new facilities have been added. And while they're added as capacity because they're new roadways represent capacity, that the intent is to make sure that they're each represented in the way they would be described in the Walton County Mobility Plan. So these descriptions allow us to put forward what the purpose, the need of that project would be for the community and why it made a needs list plan. I think one of the ones that has been discussed previously, just to highlight, is that at an intersection level, is how do we address future challenges on 331 and 98. It's not just an issue for the segments of the roadway corridors, but also where they intersect, and that's really where capacity it has the greatest challenge. So you can see that there are both capacity projects in terms of new roads, there's intersections to focus on critical issues, and then I'll point out this one as well as a multimodal facility on existing power easement that would allow for that east-west bike ped travel without necessarily needing to be on the corridor for longer trips, and provide a different kind of accessibility to the community. Also in this area are some transit options which are highlighted in that more orange color and also available along roads like 30A. I did pull up these cost feasible scenarios a little bit earlier. There isn't a whole lot here in our current priorities, but if we look at more of the evaluation criteria and along 98 rather, I did want to highlight one that has come up and scored well in a number of different ways, which is adaptive signal control. Again, if this is a SIS facility, but adaptive signal control is a way that the community can operate the corridor. And it allows you to get a little bit of extra both capacity and ability to adapt to sometimes off-peak times where you do have more pedestrian activity in the area, allowing for quicker recall when things like ped buttons are pushed. So these types of projects do have kind of benefits beyond what you would traditionally see in the construction project And this is one example in the area. And then the multimodal, I mentioned this this facility that could parallel 98 and provide for a more comfortable traveling area and something that would highlight some of the beauty in the area. So back at the full needs plan, and I'm going to continue to pan now. I'm moving from Walton County toward Okaloosa County, moving east to west along 98 to show some of the additional projects. In this area, there's a little less red on the map, a little bit more of a built-out roadway network in places where the improvements are being more categorized as complete streets, in that the roadways are there and there's additional features to be added. And you can also see a number of ped bike improvements, including some neighborhood sidewalk connections that will allow you to move around the community without necessarily having to walk along 98 as an additional way to look at it. Some of the highlights here, you do have the Mid-Bay Bridge and the additional need for capacity, as well as a potential transit project that would connect through Knoxville to Destin as another project that sits along that same corridor. So trying to highlight some of the features of this, you certainly have the 98 portion. I mentioned the ped bike and the pedestrian connections between the two communities of Destin and Fort Walton Beach. And then another element that you can see in this area that is important to understand is that there's several projects that you may think of as coming in the near future, and they're in this existing plus committed or E plus C look. And if those were in place, often the project that's needed is really the one that's going to extend beyond it to make that last connection or those additional pieces. And so a couple of the ones that have been discussed a lot, one is for the around the mound, or that capacity and operational improvement need here at this intersection of the Bay Parkway and US 98 corridors. So backing out a little bit from some of the needs, which you can see are plentiful through there and documented. Current priorities. Current priorities include that transit connector that would connect directly from Knoxville to Destin. Parts of the multi-use path between Destin and Fort Walton Beach, an extension of Hollywood Boulevard. So there's some that are in the current priorities as if they've been set in the past. Evaluation criteria highlighted a couple other projects, including the State Road 189 project, which would help the circulation between Fort Walton Beach and the airport and Air Force Base, as well as some that are more of a complete streets or additional features for roads like US 98. And again, the adaptive signal control, another one that has a lot of ancillary value and allows for the operation of that facility to better meet the needs of the community. And then at the multimodal transit certainly pops up again. You've got those ped bike projects, as well as a number of opportunities in the Destin, and I'll zoom in a little tighter in the Destin, which pops up there for your screen, and in the Fort Walton community, where having a denser sidewalk network certainly allows for additional travel that doesn't necessarily need to be vehicular. Now I'm going to slowly pan north, and you can see 85 is going to come up on in that discussion. But I'll start with the needs in that area. Okay. So everybody in the room, we're looking at Crestview. We've traveled north from the beach in Okaloosa, and we are now near the I-10 corridor, the community of Crestview, as though you had driven up State Road 85. You can see that there's a major, I'll start with this one, probably the most notable in the community right now is the Crestview bypass, which is in the process of design build to provide that southwest quadrant an alternative route. To match in with that is the northwest quadrant, part of the Crestview bypass west. and that is ongoing study to figure out different alignments. So lines like these, where we have 65A and 65B, really represent that there's not a need necessarily for two facilities identified here, but rather that it's under study to find out which roadway would best serve the community at this time. You can see that there are a number of needs. We also have an east side and capacity along there, which is going to be part of more of that CIS type of project. And you can see also on the needs list, things like I-10. I kind of glossed over I-10 when I was over in Decuniac Springs, but I-10 has projects throughout it. So it gives an idea of some of the projects in the area. Now, in terms of our scenarios, the priorities, these tighter looking circles are intersection improvements, both at 85 and US 90, as well as down here on the south end at the PJ Adams Parkway with 85. From an evaluation criteria perspective, you can see this interchange at 85, but I do want to highlight that this is a slightly different project. This one was the Complete Streets Corridor project along 85, as to add a little bit more to what 85 could be for that community beyond just the capacity, vehicular capacity side, but rather to build out the other features. And then the multimodal also highlights that C11 project, the Complete Streets one I just discussed, but also highlights that need for that US 90 trail, that multimodal pit bike connection that would allow for parallel mobility along I-10 and really utilize US 90. So that is my tour of the map. Hopefully it was informative and helped you see kind of that this needs plan and its subsequent cost feasible scenarios do reflect a variety of interests and needs throughout the whole region, and really do touch every community throughout the TPO. So with that, I'll go ahead and pause and I can see if there's any questions and hand it back to Jill and Corey. Thank you.
Hey, Matt, this is Corey in the room. Would you also point out on State Road 85 in Crestview, the pedestrian facility that we're talking about at the school? I think this body recommended that to be added, and I wanted to point that out to show you that it is on the needs plan as well. And while he's looking for that, we have been coordinating closely with Kristen, with Walton County, with all the local governments, but this is the time. If you see something that's not on there, this is the time to speak up and make sure that we have all the projects that are on there. Go ahead, Matt, highlight that one.
There we go. So this is the ped bike facility, and I've at this level of Zoom, I can use aerial as well to help give guidance to it. The ped bike facility includes, one is the route along 85 to help connect up to Airport Road. Another identified was the desire for a pedestrian overpass over State Road 85 as a recommendation of this body. And for orientation, this is the school location. This is the recently signalized intersection to provide access to it.
This is Alex Barthay. I made the recommendation based on communications with one of the teachers at the high school, and I guess I would be. There's a need for something. At this point, I'll let the smart folks go ahead and figure out what's the best. If it's an elevated or if it's something else. I'm just identifying the needs. I don't want to leave us to an option that may be too expensive to afford. Just highlighting the need that there's something for safety for both Davidson and Crestview High School crossing back and forth over 85. And I think Ms. Earl had a question.
I have a question. I brought it up the last two meetings about 285 being widened. from Niceville up to possibly the interstate, at least up there, that far, maybe 4, and I don't see it on anything. And the other second question is that I was trying to figure out these numbers you have on the maps here and correlation with the needs plan numbers, and there's several of them I can't find. My third thing is the headings at the top of scenario 1 have headings. Scenario 2 just has it on page 1, so you have to go back and forth to figure out what each column means, and scenario 3 is the same way. So if we had headings on every page, it might be a little easier, but 285 is my main concern.
Again, Corey Wilkinson with HDR. Matt, feel free to jump in. I'll start the response. We did talk about that both with Okaloosa County and with FDOT, and the capacity numbers aren't showing, or the deficiency numbers aren't showing a need for capacity widening. So that's not diminishing the fact that there are some safety improvements that could be made on it. When we talked to Bryant Hawk about it, they felt like they could address that better through the safety program side, because this is a very near-term need that has to be addressed, rather than something, a 25-year range in this long-range transportation plan.
Well, this is long range, and I think with 85, people are doing 285 instead of 85, and it's a mess. People get killed out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's there's no place to go. There's no passing lanes like, the old 85 or 123 at least had passing lanes. There's no passing lanes, so people pass, and there's going to be more people killed.
FDOT thought they could address it better as a safety project, and that they didn't feel like it needed to be on this long range plan. If I'm misspeaking, Bryant can clarify for us, but that's.
I thought this is for long range.
It is.
No, this is all capacity. We're overgrown too fast, and we didn't keep up with it. Personal opinion.
Okay, so we will relook at that as if there is something else that can be added. Matt, did you have anything else to add that I may have forgotten about?
Corey, I think you hit the idea very well, is that we see it as it's a safety project and not necessarily something that's driven in the long range, but I'm happy to let others comment further on it.
Maybe, Mr. Earlwood, I don't know, with kind of listening to your comment, I think what they're trying to say is they can have more immediate solutions to some of the issues you're identifying through safety improvement, and then the longer term with what we're looking at here with the long range plan. So, am I?
Okay, where do we go from the safety then? Who's going to take the lead on this and do it?
Jill, if you can address that.
I guess I'll reach back out to Bryant, just make sure it's on their radar, and it is something that at least, at a initial look to see if it can go to their safety program.
If it cannot be addressed by the safety program, then yes, it needs to be on here. But the quickest way to address it is through a safety project, not through getting tied up in a 20-year outlook. So that's why it's not on here. If it needs to be on here, then it needs to be on here.
Oh.
We're not trying to keep it off of the list, right?
Right, I understand all that, but to me, long-range plan, we didn't have long-range plans back in the 80s and 90s, and now we're trying to fix with connecting roads. Well, we should always have connecting roads and things like this, but if you planning for the future, I think 285, if you guys are going to do all this stuff up on 90, you're going to have all this, in the north end of the counties, then maybe it doesn't need to be fixed, and I understand all these are probably higher priority, but that is a dangerous road, especially at night. And this long-range plan, to me, means thinking out future. Future, it can be it. The future will be here, and it still won't be done, so we'll be trying to find money and Just my opinion,
Th-
thank
This,
you.
this item isn't for action, but you, as a body, certainly can make a recommendation to the TCC and the TPO that be included. And it, you know, if that's something you want to do as the CAC, that would be appropriate to do so.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to certainly look at the safety. Yeah.
I like-
also add 285 to the long range plan for both capacity and safety issues.
Yeah.
I can make that motion. I don't have a problem. Or,
Well, something.
If you're gonna do a plan, I'd then make sure you coordinate with England, make sure they're okay with whatever recommendation you come up with.
oh, of course, I know that goes through Eglin, but, you know, just even passing lanes would really, really help there, like, you know. So, that's why people pass and other people go out in the ditch. And I have to tell you guys, this is personal experience. My husband's twice in the ditch. Alex's wife saw the motorcycle get hit, you know, killed. So it's kind of personal. I don't want him to be killed. I want to live with him for
All right,
another
and
30
I don't
years.
want to, I know we still have a couple of things I think left, but your point stands, and I think the sense of the body is that we need to look at putting this on.
Alex, can I make one
Sure,
comment?
you certainly can.
I probably have, as I've said, 50,000 miles as a cyclist before my ankles quit in Okaloosa County since 2006. From a cyclist perspective, 285 became a non-viable route for us, and it used to be one of our main north-south routes, and that was a result of the connector. I can tell you that riding on 285 on a bicycle with 20 other people after the connector was completed, it totally changed the environment on that road, and it went from being, let's say, lightly traveled with, there were not many incidents for us as cyclists. But once the connector was done, 285 became a zoo. And I'd like to go back to the original study where the connector was proposed and see what projections were made as far as the traffic increase both on 85 and 285. And I think we'll find that if there were any projections about the subsequent volume of traffic on those two north-south corridors, that they were grossly incorrect, and that it has dramatically changed the behavior of car drivers on both of those roads. And that's my perspective.
Well, I would have to say, I've been in the area since 2005, and Crestview by itself is the 13th fastest growing city in Florida, and the issues. The reason I'm here is because there's been a number of things. I'm like, why can't we do it? Well, the problem is we haven't had money, and when the Florida DOT says, "Hey, I understand you got a problem. By the way, what's your measure of cost share?" But where's the skin in the game? We didn't have it, so now we do have opportunities through recently passed taxes. We do have increase in funding coming into this area. And I can understand your frustration, but I think this is why we're here. We have an opportunity to take this and make the recommendations and to follow up on it and make something happen. So I support you on what you're trying to do, and we've made the recommendation. So in the interest of time,
Mr. Chairman, if I could just interject for staff, I feel like there are some things that need to be explored before a recommendation is made to this particular document, because this is a draft document and it won't be voted on for final until December. That will give us an opportunity to look at the safety potential, look at the study that was done before, kind of feel out some of those things. I think that Jill and I and DOT can work on that, and we can come back in December when you have the plan to vote on. I understand you want action and you want something done, but we've not done anything that happens overnight, so does that make
something in the
sense?
plan, not ignored, just something in the plan, whether it be safety or I know widening, it took us 20 years to get 85 and 123 done, and our Congress and those people helped us out, our elected officials. So, another 20 years for 285. I won't be here and you guys won't have to put up with me, but I would like to see something for the future, because Walton County has no roads going up. We wanted, after the hurricanes in 95, we started with 87, 85, 331, you know, all the roads, saying we need hurricane evacuation routes. And everything was pretty much done, close to it,
Okay.
and except this.
Well, I think we kind of really do have to move on. I believe that you're making headway. So,
I'd like
and
to
I'm
make
not just saying that.
another comment, since it's long-range plan, we mentioned about South Walton County. If we're going to look at 20-odd years out, the 2331 intersection, a flyover of some kind, is that the kind of thing we could add in here?
We do have a project at that location identified in the needs plan. What the improvements are not defined
All right.
yet.
Or rather than just intersection, think about a flyover.
I think those types of solutions you'll see come up as the PD&E has completed and as the design progresses in that next phase of that project development. But we do have that on the plan as a recognized intersection that needs a solution. We don't have a solution proposed at this point, but we do know that that is a node of importance.
Okay,
Was there a motion made or no?
well, we're gonna go, the
With Mary
action
Beth's
is for them
suggestion.
to go ahead and review, look at safety options, and then by December, when we meet again, we'll have information and then we'll make a motion if we need to at that point.
Okay, sounds good.
Take it
Thank
into
you.
some research.
Thank you all.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
I'm assuming that you guys are finished with the presentation. Have you gone through, or have you not got to you have?
I'll let Matt speak up, but yeah, I think this is at the end of everything that we wanted to convey at this point.
So Jill, did you have anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'm not going to go into detail on all the things in your information packet. We're running pretty long on time today. And I knew that we would. So just a couple things. First of all, we do have our transportation symposium coming up November the 4th and 5th. I believe today is the last day to get the room rate that is just under $100 per night. So if you're going to stay, you need to make your reservations today to get that really good room rate. And then also please register. And then the Mobility Week, you have a flyer out here. Mary Jo, did you want to say anything else about that, or just? Okay, it's all on here, and I think Okaloosa Transit may be involved in it. But if you want to get involved, you do have a flyer. And your next meeting will be Thursday, December the 9th, and it is planned to be at the South Walton Annex Boardroom. This is at kind of at the corner of 331 and Highway 98 in South Walton County. Does anything else? So Tiffany's standing there like she wants to
She
announce
is,
something.
and I do have a comment, so go ahead, Tiffany. Ladies first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let you know that we are getting a couple of kickbacks saying that the room rates at the Hilton are full. So if you do choose to stay with us for the symposium, please call the hotel and ask for the group manager, and they'll get you taken care of. Just wanted to throw that out for everyone.
Okay. And just kind of briefly while I brain cells there, because Lord knows I'll probably forget about it later on. I see here for the EC Rider, I read through what's in the packet, and I would encourage, the whole idea seems to be increase in ridership, but I see 2 years ago, maybe, Don, we talked about the county having some kind of parking facility where you could park and ride. We haven't talked about that since. We have military bases around. If you're trying to get ridership, then maybe look at how can you get some of these cars off the road, do a ride share, and work with EC. They're willing to put those assets on the road from what I read, but I didn't see anything that involved trying to do ride share and do something else. We'll talk about it more, but I just want to get that in, my comment in, so I have something to remember next time. All right, guys, I got to tell you, we covered a lot of ground. I thought it was great. Ms. Jackson, you spoke up too much. Just have to No, okay, all right, we'll get some, going around the room, anybody have any last minutes? Okay, anything else? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.